Man, thank you for joining us today. And I want to let everybody know, check us out on our YouTube channel, KHR Orlando. This is part of our Keys to Success series for small businesses. And we're going to talk all things workers' compensation, safety programs. What are the top ways that you can create a solid safety program inside your business so you don't have losses that end up costing you a lot of money. And we're going to talk about everything that you need to know as a small business here because we have our expert with us today, Brian. I want to tell you thank you first for everything that you do for us here at KHR. And it's really important that as business owners continue to grow and as you continue to bring on people, what it means to have a safety program, what it means to have a workers' compensation policy that can cover you so you can remain compliant. So let's start it out. Let's start kind of big to small, and let's talk to some of our blue-collar industries right now. Sure. And what do you see as what do they need to have in place for safety on the job, in their offices? What does a safety program look like?
Well, the main thing, business owners, they work hard to build a business. Their dream was to start off to build this business. Now that they've worked hard, they started a business, the best way to protect it is implementing a company safety program. And some of the savings that would be associated with implementing a safety program would be reduced insurance premium cost, reduced training costs for retraining an employee that may have been injured and things like that. So first of all, implementing a safety program can have a positive effect on your bottom line by reducing some of the indirect costs as well.
Yeah.
As far as blue collar industries, some of the office staff, there's low premiums on secretary administrative things and like that, and an average, say a carpal tunnel syndrome might be $18,000 for an arm injury. So there's not a whole lot of premium there to cover those injuries. So it's very, very important to put some steps in place to reduce the risk of having an injury. We all know it's difficult to eliminate all injuries, but we can certainly reduce the risk of having an injury. Some of the things like your office staff might be, don't open the top 2 or 3 drawers of a file cabinet, open one drawer at a time, or bolt the file cabinet to the wall. Eliminate some trip hazards from computer cords, extension cords, things like that. If it's an office where there's a lot of doors opening in and out, might want to watch your shoe wear so you're not opening a door over an open toe shoe and peeling back some areas of the foot, things like that.
Right. And so when you think about building a safety program, right, what does it start with? Like, okay, you need workers' compensation, you get it, and then now you need to create a safety program. What are the top 5 things or whatever we're trying to build for that?
Well, basically, the federal government, we got to follow state, federal, and local laws, and a lot of the regulatory compliance officers would come out and say, hey, the first thing you need is an orientation process. If I'm hired on with a new company, before I'm released to work, I should know the rules. It's kind of hard to gauge whether an employee is working safely or not if there's no rules in the first place.
Okay.
So establishing some company rules.
Okay. Cool.
This is what we're going to do to finish this certain task or tasks, and giving that employee the tools, the training necessary to perform his job safely, his or her job safely.
Right. So as a new employee comes in, have safety rules in place and review them. I mean, do you see people doing basic, like, hey, not exams, so to say, but as an acknowledgement that they understand it? Is there anything written down, or what do you recommend?
Absolutely. Implementing a safety program has several facets to it, and one of them is the orientation process. And then ongoing training or safety meetings, you would want to have ongoing trainings. That way you're planting safety seed in the conscious part of the mind, it's being stored in the subconscious part of the mind. So you really want to revisit some of those trainings just to get that employee going in the right direction on a behavior-based safety track.
Right. And so what does that do for you? Let's say you do have a claim. Let's say, okay, you had the orientation, the safety orientation went well. Your valued employee said they understand it, but everybody makes mistakes. So what happens when a mistake does occur? What does that help you? Does that acknowledgement of the safety program that they've seen it help with the claim, or what's the process when someone actually gets injured?
Claim. There's 2 areas of safety. One is to be proactive and reactive. To be proactive, you would want to set up say, an inspection process to go out and review the work areas that the employees are working in. And if you can discover unsafe work practices, it gives you an out to correct those before the accident ever happens.
Right.
After an accident does happen, it's very important to go back to that area, wherever the accident would be, to do an investigation to find out what went wrong with this situation. That way we could put in place some suggestions to prevent it from happening again.
Now that's a good point. Okay, so you have a claim and you go out, you figure out what's going on, you have an investigation. Is there a format? Is there something that, at us as a PEO that we provide to be able to help them do that?
Exactly. We have forms and suggestions. With our PEO, we have safety specialists that are internal that can go out and help our clients do those things. We can provide forms to help them through that process, inspection process, and we can help them with recommendations on how to prevent it from reoccurring.
And thinking of that and all the years of experience that you have and we have here, dozens of years of experience building safety programs for small businesses, imagine what that does. How much time and energy does that take off of our clients?
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. And it reduces the cost. If a client, if you have somebody stand in the fence for our clients, helping them with the safety, it's going to overall reduce their cost associated with business. There's a lot of competition out there. So once you build a company, and to stay competitive with the products or services that you're providing, you got to keep the overhead down.
Right.
And implementing a safety program could actually do that. Help with the cost, and keep everything competitive with your competitors.
Yeah, and so when we come in and we onboard a new client, what are the first 3 or 4 things we're looking at to be able to help from that standpoint? What are you doing?
Well, we like to look at history. What type of history was with that prospective client, and see if there's any issues that we might be able to suggest to eliminate that from happening again. Some clients come on with us with no history of claims. That's a good time to put practices in place to prevent or reduce the risk of ever having them in the first place.
Yeah.
So when a new client comes on, we find out what the needs are for the client, and every client is different. This client may need certain things where this client may not. So we do an assessment of our prospective client, find out where they're at and what they need, and we assist them in putting those things in place for them, policies and procedures to reduce the risk of injury.
No, that's awesome. And another thing that we were thinking about too is, so once you get a claim, right, what happens once someone gets a claim? What is the process when there is one? What should someone do immediately when there is a claim?
Well, when there is a claim, we want our clients to understand that, reporting a claim right away is very important, because if the claims aren't reported right away, information gets lost. So, if you can report a claim to your supervisor right away, then there can be an investigation, or at least find out what exactly went wrong. We here at Key HR have claims managers. The client will report the claim to our claims managers, and that starts the claim process. An adjuster will be assigned to that person and that claim, and they'll walk them through treatments, return to work programs, and things like that.
See, and that's huge, and when we think about, our business partners that we bring on board, it's a co-employment relationship.
Exactly.
We have skin in the game just like our partners do. So a claim for them is a claim for us.
Yes.
And that's what we want everybody to know. And that's why, we're structured in the way that we are to support them through that entire process. Now, what do you recommend for rehabbing a loss history? How do you do that?
Well, it just depends on what the loss history was.
Okay.
In my mind, if I'm walking through a facility and I see, or I read a report that has 5 lacerations to the hand, well, that tells me we're heading for an amputation. So reading trends, reading the claims, what has happened, or just walking through the facility if there were no claims and find out what could happen in this picture. I mean, safety, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to really eliminate claims. Basically, walking through a facility and imagining what could go wrong with this picture, you'll automatically start thinking of ways to improve the work environment and ways to prevent injuries.
And that's That's a really good service, exactly what you just said.
Exactly.
Is, as a PEO, we're in your corner thinking ahead for you.
Yep.
We're coming to you and showing you like, hey, have you thought about this inside of your facilities? Especially as they want to stay compliant and grow. I think that's really, really important. Is there anything else that we want to leave, our viewers with when it comes to workers' comp safety and anything in that realm?
Well, basically, teaming up with a PEO, kind of like KHR, we're in your corner. We're standing the fence for you guys. And, my mission actually is to get our owners and our clients' owners to sleep better at night, knowing someone standing the wall to help protect them and their business. Because like I said in the beginning, they work very hard to create this business. It's our job to maintain that relationship. We don't want a client for 4 months, 6 months. We want a lifetime client. So partnering with good clients with good attitudes and wanting to work with us to keep the claims down, that's what we're looking for.
Absolutely. So, what in your career, give us the top 2 stories of really bad accidents that could have been prevented with the safety program?
Easily. One of the stories, we built Winter Springs High School here in Florida, and the tie beam and column subcontractor there, I would go through there and I would see this one employee always, doing something wrong, not tied off, no fall protection when he really needed it. I would go to the owner of the company and I'd tell him, hey, I don't want to yell at this guy, but he's got to have fall protection. So we did that maybe 2 or 3 times. Well, finally they finished the job on our site, never had a claim, went to the next site. About 6 weeks later, I get a call. I'm traveling from Miami back to Orlando, and the dad of the owner of this company called me and said, hey, Frank's in the hospital, he fell off some scaffolding. So I actually went to the hospital, straight to the hospital, and I was able to get in there in the ICU. Why they let me in, I don't know. The dad was there, he's got tears in his eyes, and he said, this is what happens when they don't listen to the safety guy. And what had happened was that same person built this scaffolding, didn't build it correctly. Him and the owner was probably 20 feet. They stepped on a board, the board collapsed, and the owner of the company did a belly buster on the concrete and lost the company. The dad had to take over the company, pretty much lost his family, had to learn to walk and talk again. It was just tragic. Another story, in 1985, we were building a General Motors plant, and a person fell and hit a rebar and impaled himself, and it was a fatality. So after the fatality, the job shut down. There's a big investigation. You don't sleep after seeing that for several days. And then about a week later, I get a call from the guard shack for me to, I got to go to guard shack number 12. So I go down there, and what's the problem here? Well, it was the widow and a child showed up with flowers, wanting to know if they could place flowers where the dad and the husband had perished. Well, there you go again. You're not sleeping for 3 or 4 more days.
Right.
And the main goal for safety is to send everybody home with 10 fingers, 10 toes, and 2 eyes to their loved ones, because that's what it's all about.
Absolutely.
We're here to make money, but we're here to support our loved ones. And those kind of injuries and accidents, it's hard to support your family when you can't work.
No, and I want to tell you thank you. We're very glad we have you here, having that kind of not only expertise but love for our clients to say, look, especially our higher risk clients, like we really care about making sure that you're safe and you get home. And as a PEO, I think that's a really high calling, and I want to tell you thank you for that.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right.